The Adventures of Henry and the Sailor, Part 2. The sun had barely set when Captain Finn's ship, the Sea Explorer, anchored just off the coast of a mysterious island. Henry stood at the ship's railing, staring at the glowing light in the distance. It wasn't the usual light of lanterns or torches. No, this was something magical, thousands of tiny, dancing lights that shimmered like stars caught in mid-flight. They floated through the night air, casting an enchanting glow over the island. The fireflies were everywhere, and Henry's heart raced with excitement. This, he knew, would be an adventure to remember. "Captain Finn," Henry called, "look at that. The island is alive with lights." Captain Finn, ever the steady and calm sailor, glanced over with a half-smile. "Ah yes, that's Glow Island, Henry. They say the fireflies here light up the night like no other place in the world. But there's more to this island than just glowing lights, as you'll soon see. Come on, let's go explore." With the anchor dropped and the ship secured, father and son made their way down the gangplank and onto the soft sands of Glow Island. The air was thick with the scent of tropical flowers and damp earth, a smell that Henry had come to associate with adventure. As they walked along the shore, the fireflies seemed to follow them, casting little bursts of light like twinkling stars around their heads. Henry couldn't help but reach out to catch one, laughing as it danced just out of his reach. "It's like they're playing tag with me," he exclaimed. Captain Finn chuckled softly. "They do seem to enjoy a little fun. But remember, these fireflies are delicate. We must be careful not to disturb them." They ventured further into the island, following a narrow path that wound through dense vegetation. As they approached a clearing, the sight before them was even more magical. Thousands of fireflies floated above the ground, their soft glow lighting up the darkened forest. It was like walking in a dream, surrounded by the soft flicker of light. "This is amazing," Henry whispered, his eyes wide. "I've never seen anything like it." Captain Finn nodded. "It's a rare sight, Henry. But there's something strange about all this." Henry looked up at his father, his curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" Captain Finn's face had turned serious. "The fireflies are restless. They're flying erratically, as if they're being disturbed." Henry didn't need to be told twice. He followed his father's gaze, watching the fireflies zigzag through the air instead of drifting calmly as they should. Some even seemed to be flying in circles, as if caught in a storm. Something wasn't right. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from the bushes, followed by a series of high-pitched squeaks. Out of the underbrush emerged several small, mischievous creatures, about the size of a raccoon but with large, round eyes and tufted ears. They moved quickly, darting between the trees and leaping around the fireflies, startling them into frantic flight. "Look at them," Henry exclaimed. "They're scaring the fireflies." The creatures were not being malicious, but their antics were certainly disturbing. They seemed to be playing a game, chasing the glowing fireflies through the air and making high-pitched squeals as they leapt after them. Captain Finn shook his head. "It's as I thought. These creatures must be the cause of the fireflies' unrest. They probably don't realize the trouble they're causing. We need to stop them before the fireflies scatter completely." Henry, full of energy, was already stepping forward. "I'll talk to them, Dad. Maybe they just need to be shown how to play the right way." Captain Finn looked at his son, both amused and impressed. "You've got the right idea. But be careful, Henry. These creatures may be playful, but they're not used to people." Henry nodded, excited and a little nervous. He crept closer to one of the creatures, which was darting around a cluster of fireflies, clearly trying to catch one. Henry knelt down, his hand outstretched slowly. "Hey there," Henry said softly, trying not to startle the creature. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help." The creature paused, its bright eyes blinking at Henry. It tilted its head curiously, as if considering his words. Then, with a swift movement, it scampered up to Henry and sniffed his hand. Henry smiled and slowly pulled his hand back, not wanting to overwhelm it. "You like the fireflies, don't you?" Henry asked, his voice gentle. The creature made a soft chattering noise and nodded, its bushy tail flicking excitedly. It clearly enjoyed the chase, but it hadn't realized that its playfulness was causing chaos. Henry glanced back at his father. Captain Finn had moved to another creature, his voice calm as he spoke to it. Henry could see that the creatures weren't mean-spirited. They were just unaware of how their behavior affected the fireflies. "Hey, Dad," Henry called. "I think they're just playing." We just need to show them how to have fun without bothering the fireflies. Captain Finn smiled. Good thinking, Henry. Let's see if we can make it a game that everyone can enjoy. With that, father and son got to work. Captain Finn had always been good with animals, and he used his calm, steady voice to communicate with the creatures. Henry, inspired by his father, had an idea. He quickly ran to a nearby tree, where he found a cluster of fallen fruit. He collected it and began arranging it in a small circle on the ground. Look, Henry called, holding up a large, ripe piece of fruit. Why don't we try a new game? Instead of chasing the fireflies, we can play with something else. Like this fruit. The creatures paused, intrigued by the fruit. Henry placed it in the center of the circle, then stepped back. He held his breath, hoping the creatures would understand. One of the raccoon-like creatures hesitated for a moment, then padded over and sniffed the fruit. It nudged it with its nose, rolling the fruit a little. Slowly, the others joined in, circling the fruit and batting it back and forth. Their earlier chaos turned into a playful game, and before long, the fireflies had settled back into their steady, peaceful flight. Henry watched in delight as the creatures played with the fruit, their previous mischief forgotten. They were still having fun, but now they weren't disturbing the delicate fireflies. Henry felt a sense of pride. They had solved the problem, and the island was peaceful once more. Captain Finn approached, his face filled with approval. Well done, Henry. You've taught them how to play without causing any harm. That's a skill not many people have. Henry grinned. I guess all they needed was a little guidance. As the night wore on, the fireflies resumed their graceful dance in the air, and the creatures continued their new game, happily batting the fruit around. The once chaotic island was now calm, bathed in the soft glow of thousands of tiny lights. Henry and his father sat together on a nearby rock, watching the scene unfold. Sometimes, Dad, Henry said quietly, we just need to understand creatures before we can help them. Captain Finn nodded, his hand resting on Henry's shoulder. That's right, Henry. Every creature has its own way of living, and sometimes, all it takes is a little patience and understanding to make the world a better place, for both us and them. Henry smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. As he watched the fireflies flicker and the creatures play, he knew this would be a memory he would cherish forever, a reminder of the importance of understanding the world around him, no matter how small or mischievous its inhabitants might be. And so, Glow Island returned to its peaceful glow, as father and son made their way back to the Sea Explorer, ready for the next adventure that awaited them on the horizon.